get the lady. Yeah.
We're fine here.
We're right. And it belongs to the West Corner to go. He was the first one to get here now as a farmer. And also as a trader after retiring from the army. And sadly the guy built himself now this wonderful house made from mud bricks. Third class, and you know the walls are made from mud bricks and the third class on top. But he dies in 1875, and where the car park is today, that's where the guy had a big orchard, producing lots of his stuff now, selling to the Zulus. So this building here would be used as a trading store by Jim Rorke. He's the first one, and the man had been involved with the Inniskillings Fusiliers now in 1849. Remember now, as the man was preferring to go home in 1849, he discovered that it would be an idea not to go home, because the whole of Ireland had been struck by that big problem. This was the reason why the guy decided to hang around. He got a permission from the national authorities to bring on his building. Then the guy now becomes very alcoholic, and he used to drink now what you call a square-faced gin. The square-faced gin. When he goes to Zulu, that is now the present point will be named after him. Zulus, unable to pronounce his name properly, they end up now saying Jimo. They say Jimo. Then his place was called Jim. And he's got now, you know, good relations with the Zulus now. Big friend. Now the guy called, you see how, you know, those live now. They hunt together, trading together, doing lots of things together. He ends up now knowing lots of stuff now from the Zulus now. And he becomes very fluent in Zulu, can speak Zulu. Then sometimes now he goes to Zululand hunting with the Zulus. He brings along now a small bottle of his gin, giving a sip now to the Zulus, trying to introduce them now to the Western stuff, you know. Therefore, Zulus, they say now, this is now the great Queen's tears. You know, something very nice. Take a sip. Then, lots of, you know, love stories now before the end of Zulu started. And Jim Rorke now becomes very alcoholic in such a way that on the 21st of October, 1875, the man sadly committed suicide. He's been waiting for some of his deliveries from Car, and the cart was very slow, drawn by 2 mules, about 25 kilometers. The guy had been going mad now, going up and down and screaming, shouting to his wife now. He says now, Sarah, this bloody cart and a bloody mule. His wife now, Sarah, says now, please, patient, cool down, it's coming. The guy now goes totally uncontrollably, and he takes his revolver, shooting himself now. He wanted to be buried somewhere at the back of his yard, because many times he goes to Zululand. Zulus never stop asking him now. They say, Jumo, could you please do us now a favor? Get us some bones from the white men. We want them now for our medicine. Cutting them into powder, you know. Nice medicine. We call this umuti. Then the guy came back now and warned his wife, now Sarah says, now Sarah, if I happen to die, please make sure that you bury me somewhere at the back of my yard, in case they come up here looking for my remnant. And I can tell you, can you see the smoke? Yeah. Oh yeah. The grave is there. Yeah. Somewhere at the back of his yard. Very clever man. Then this property will be sold to the man called Reverend Otterwit, a long way from Sydney. Otterwit is the first Swedish Lutheran missionary to be sent out here in Southern Africa. He bought this property shortly after Jim Rorke's death now. And he never changed anything from this building, still going to use that one as a house. This one becomes what you call a church. Arriving here at the wrong time to the wrong place. Are you aware of that? He gets the whole thing wrong. Well, before the story goes further, remember now the sitting of the Boundary Commission. That Boundary Commission assembled here on the 7th of March 1878, collecting its evidence. The Boers now from Transvaal came down here to make their submissions. Also the Zulus now, they came here now to make their submissions. That commission sat here for about 5 weeks. Then it sent its report from here to Pietermaritzburg. That led to the issuing of the ultimatum. The ultimatum itself being the key for the destruction of the Zulu kingdom. As a result, now one day the militias were sitting on the veranda and they couldn't believe their eyes. They looked now across. Now they saw many people coming straight in their red coats, white helmets, wagons, mules, horses, everything. They started now to ask each other, oh God, who the hell are they? Others now asking, where the hell are they coming from? Others asking, where the hell are they going to? To everyone's surprise, they came down here, came up here, hugging their workers in the bedroom there. And a few of them came up here looking for the owner of the property. The man who spoke to Reverend Ottawit introduced himself and said, now, my name is Frederick Augustus Thesinger, the second Baron Chancellor. We are here preparing for the invasion of Zululand. We'll be very pleased now to use this house as our military hospital. And the other one over there is our supply depot. Ottawit, the owner of the property, nearly fainted. Turned around and said, now, excuse me, sir, this is not my property, this is my house. Oh, there's my church. There was nothing the men could do to stop them. Many of these guys at the time had just broken their ankles, having fallen off the wagons. Others now having some problems with their tummies, lots of, problems with conditions here, fever, lots of, coughing. At the time, they are now being offloaded and packed into the building here. Now it's being turned into a military hospital to be looked after by the guy called Sergeant Major Reynolds. Reynolds is Irish too, obtained his qualifications from Trinity College in Dublin. It will be his job now to keep an eye to those sick and wounded. They are now at Rorkes Drift for 3 weeks, wanting to see whether King Sejong is going to comply or not. Then there are tents to be found all over here. It's a very remote part of Natal, lots of grass. The conditions are quite appalling here. It's very, very wet. Then there comes a time, the ultimatum expires. At about 2 o'clock early that morning, the reveille sounded at Rorkes Drift, waking them all up now. Some of them inside those tents were still having a nap. And some of them had been sitting, waiting for this moment, wanting to see the action in Zululand. Then those now were still having a nap, they get a gentle kick from the officers now. Get up! Totally, quick. Wow. Just in the middle of the night. You don't know why, they woke you up. You think, no, it's invasion. It's just a matter of just grabbing your rifle, your water container, ammunition pouch, all your everything now. Then those weapons, they to move from that place there, down to the present point to the point of hitting. Invasion begins. Marching straight to see how it's coming. Fighting there for 2 days, coming back here as casualties. Putting on into this building. Then 10 days later, we've got a big disaster on the battlefields of Isandlwana. And the Battle of Isandlwana takes place. And the messages were received here. Messages now received by the people at Rorkes Drift were one and the same, but saying that now the camp is taken, Zulus are coming. The camp is taken, Zulus are coming. The camp is taken, Zulus are coming. At the time, this camp has been looked after by the man called Major Spalding. Spalding at the time decided to go to Edinburgh. He was going to check some of his supplies he had ordered. And they were very late. Before the man left, he took his regimental list, wanting to see who is the senior officer he's got here so as to keep an eye while the man was away. Then to his surprise, he finds that the only senior officer he's got here is a man called Lieutenant John Merritt Chart of the Royal Engineers. He says, now, Chart, I can see you senior here. Could you please keep an eye to this camp? I'm off to Edinburgh. I'll be back this evening. Hopefully nothing will happen until I'm back. Chart now says, now, yes, sir. Then the guy now got out of the camp here straight to Edinburgh. Could have been still on his way when the first message was received in this camp here. And the guy called Lieutenant Bromett received the first message here, and without any waste of time, sends now somebody down to Chad. Chad is still down at the river here after his return from Isandlwana camp. You remember, he had been to Isandlwana camp. Therefore, Chad now gets a message asking him to hurry up here quickly. Then the first thing Chad noticed is that the sick and wounded were already taken out, and the supplies were about to be loaded on top of these wagons. And the 2 officers, Chad and Bromett, were now discussing what to do. We've got bad news. The camp is taken. Zulus are said to be coming to attack this camp again. And it appears that the 2 officers, they were thinking to take all their stuff, heading off towards now Helbecar, about 25 k's. But around this time, we've got the guy who becomes very brave in the name of the acting commissariat officer, in the name of James Langley Dalchin, came forward and said to them now, gentlemen, why don't we fortify the camp and fight from inside? Because I think we don't have enough time to load all these sick and wounded, all our supplies. And also, this is going to give a chance now to the enemy. And they are going to chase us in the open grass and cut us into pieces. Why don't we fortify the camp and fight from inside? Then the guy takes something out of his pocket, now blue grabby piece of paper on which he drew a sketch showing them how to fortify the camp here. And today, the lines of skills you can see, they show you, they start from the front there, and they show you where the little beds are back. Then they start from the corner there all the way down to the corner of the cattle corner. Can you see the pen there? To the corner to the left, that's where they join. Again, they come up there to join to this corner of the hospital. Into 4 foot high. Each of the mini bags weighed about 200 pounds. And a decision has been taken now, we're going to stay and fight. And they're having a big job now, breaking their backs, taking these new beds, taking them into 4 foot high, and at the same time, some of them jumped into the building here, working on the walls with their pickaxes here, making some holes on the walls, because many of these rooms were not connected now. There was always one due to come in and out. The reasons behind, many of the people who used to come and stay here would be the hunters. On their way to Mozambique, they come back here and stay a bit longer here. And as we're told now, some of them would like to extend their stay here, still looking at the beautiful lady of the area here called Sarah. They thought she was the most beautiful lady in this area, not realizing that she was the only lady. The only lady here.
Well, she was beautiful then.
Yeah, that was the only one you could see. And of course, she was beautiful. Therefore, they are now working on the walls, making sure that they connect those rooms now, so that now, in case something happens from this room, they are now able to take their patients to the next room until they get them out of this room here. And you can see the windows, those 3 windows, the one at the bottom to your right, the last one at the bottom there, there was a hole overlooking the very face, about 9 foot off the ground. That was facing this direction. Going on. Having taken a decision to stay and fight, Chad and Roma at this time, they wanted to know how many men are we going to have. 450 would be okay, they thought. But, again, they don't know how many Zulus. There's a problem. And they dispatched 3 people on top of the Mozambique mountain so as to check how far the Zulus are. Then those men now, Reverend Utawit, Reverend Smith, and Sergeant Major Reynolds, they just taken. Then they took their powerful binoculars now to get on top of the hill. As the men were on top of the hill, checking on the Zulu side, they couldn't believe their eyes. Many of the Zulus were already sitting on the grass on the Natal side, puffing now from their marijuana home. Cannabis. Therefore, having seen them now crossing the river, they were so fascinated now, because the Zulus, they knew the terrain, The crossing point they used is just an existing one, and when they get there, the river was very high. They joined their animals in what you call a human chain, pulling each other like this. Then the guys were so fascinated now to see them crossing the river in that way. Then they are now coming back now, hopping from rock to rock. You could hear them now shouting down to the camp here. Remember, people are still breaking their backs. They say now, here they come! Thick as grass and as black as hell! Here they come! They said that now repeatedly as they are jumping from rock to rock, they are coming down here. Then creating that kind of, confusion here. Some of the guys were very scared. At the same time, people started to run away. And instead of 450, Chad and Bomb they end up now having at least 139 soldiers. That number still included sick and wounded. Then we can confirm it's only between 85 or 90 able-bodied soldiers here. Remember now, about 270 of these native troops in their khaki uniforms, with their red badges around their heads, known as the Natal native contingents, or also Basutu. They fled down towards the direction of Edward. And also, as the guys were running away, they are being joined by 13 non-commissioned officers. Numbers keep going down. Later on now, you find that some of them were sick and wounded. Then this time now, we've got this situation here. Wow, some of the soldiers were very brave. They are ready for the Zulus anyway, to take the challenge. Some of them were very scared. They started to hear now a very funny noise. Something sounded like, who shoot? Who shoot? Who shoot? Then they could hear that noise from behind the hill. In other words, now they couldn't see them, because as you can see here, the noise is just coming from behind the hill. But that noise itself now told you it's a big army. Then they started to hear, then that noise, some of them thought, sounds like a train. The first Rorkes Drift casualty is a guy called Corporal Anderson. The guy tries now to catch up with those fugitives. One of the watchmen, without any waste of time, grabs hold of his rifle, puts him down. The guy becomes now the first Rorkes Drift casualty. There's no time to worry about this. Everyone now is prepared now to take a challenge from the Zulus. About 4:30 or so, the first group of the Zulus could be seen, appearing on top of those rocks there. Remember now, the Battle of Rorkes Drift now takes place here, about this time. Zulus back home are still, celebrating their victory. They are now going to lose it now quickly. They are coming here, they are going to lose again. And Zulu warriors now, about 100 of them emerged on top of the high ground. And they are now standing there proudly, trying to challenge the British rifle fire. And down here you've got the guy called Colonel Sergeant Bond. His height is a 5'6" and a bag of bones. ammunition now. The guy you see now, first of all, now he has just made sure that the ammunition boxes are opened in time, and also the breech tents have been put down. That was just now his responsibility. Therefore, the guy now this time, he knows they've got about 25,000 rounds of ammunition. Then this time now you'll be seen going up and down here, each and every defender. In fact, you're telling them now the following instructions. Now he says now, hold your fire until you see the white of the eye. Hold your fire until you see the white of the eye. Hold your fire until you see the white of the eye. And telling them also cool down. This time there was that moment, the two just, watching each other. No action. Zulu warriors must have been asking themselves now, why don't they shoot? Because they wanted to see how many guns down here. And they did this now, the last man that killed at the Sunground. And the soldiers, wouldn't do anything because of Colonel Sergeant Paul. Even today now, you go to the bases where they do their training, now your boys and gangs, they are now using these two things. Here they come, thick as grass and straight as hard. It is known as the Rorkes Drift war cry, still being used today. And also, hold your fire until you see the white of the eye. They know these things now, wherever they do their training. This is from Rorkes Drift, 22nd of January, 1889. People now prepared to fight now against the Zulus now. This is now the big company. The 2nd Battalion of the 24th of Foot now, the Royal Regiment of Wales today. They are known because of these ongoing amalgamations. But those are the same people who fought here. These, you talk about now the Irish, Welsh and English who fought here. This is now the big company. Anyway, that's why today have got strong, connections between Rorkes Drift and this regiment as well. Now, today, sometimes they are known as the Royal Welsh, the Royal Regiment of Wales. Same people who fought here. The battle now starts. About 4:30 later on, Zulu warriors released the fire from the high ground. Started now to come down at that speed now. Using that speed now, and some of them, they were forced now to get closer here. Then this time, the British now released the fire. Within a few seconds, the number of the Zulu dead came up to 60 or 80 men. Then they keep coming. Some of them will be killed trying to hide at the back of what you call a temporary cookhouse, to be found in front, next to this tree there. As we are walking around later on, we are going to see the foundation of what we call the temporary cookhouse, looked after by the guy called the Private Hawk. Harry Hawk now, we call him now a Gloucester man. He's coming from Gloucester. Many of them now will be forcing their way towards that building. They are being shelled with the British rifle fire, forcing their way towards the Kennel Crawl. Inside the Kennel Crawl, we've got 6 men who will be ready with their rifles. Then they're on their way down to the bottom there. And they are being shelled big time. Some of them also trying to attack now from this direction. They were trying to apply the horns of the buffalo, but it didn't work. So many of them now end up now massing at the bottom there, fighting this way. Those now firing from the high ground, the fire will be seen now flying above the camp, striking their own people there in what we call a friendly fire. Prince Dablamanzi, who led the Zulus to Rorkes Drift, he came here now with the hope that it's going to be just an easy job, because only few people, many of them had been killed there, and they thought they couldn't march from Ulundi about 55 miles just to sit there as a reserve. They would like to do something as warriors. They are the warriors. Remember also now something called the washing of the spear. As a warrior, it's a must. You must wash your spear, so that now you get married. You can't just march now from Ulundi to sit there. Remember also now when they go back to their regimental middle bases, there must be some stories to tell. What did the regiment do? They managed to capture some boats and rifles. What did the regiment do? No, we were sitting there as a reserve. Only. No. They were very scared of them now. When they go back home, other warriors are going to laugh at them. That's why they came here. Remember also the king had told them, do not cross the river into Natal. So now here they come. The strategy they are using here is poorly organized. Then later on now it becomes very dark. And the sun goes down towards 7 o'clock in summer. We've got long days in summer here. Then later on now it becomes very dark. Zulu warriors later on they change their strategy, forcing their way into the building here. Then they are now breaking into the building. Those your friends have been broken. Then this time now, this becomes a big challenge. Remember now, about 36 soldiers were sick and wounded. And this becomes a big challenge for those healthy soldiers now to look after those lives. And those girls are being broken into. People like the guy called John Williams and the guy called Joseph Williams had been seen now packing the minibags at the door there so as to stop these Zulus from getting in. Then those minibags were cut now with the Asaka. Zulu warriors now forcing their way in. At the time, Joseph Williams is putting his gun barrel now shooting to the Zulus. And within an eye beam, the guy is searching for an ammunition to reload. He tries to get one. At the same time, Zulu warriors grab hold of his gun barrel. Then the guy was pulled out. And he fell now on top of his back here. What followed later is quite nasty. A large bladed assegai was sunk twice on his body. That Zulu now says, "Ah, down!" Pulls out now and says, "Ah, down!" and pull out now. He then licks the blade of the assegai. John Williams now this time is busy now looking after those 9 patients, taking them through the hole to the next. They are trying to move them around. And at the same time, the guy will be seen enlarging those holes with his pickaxe now and also grabbing hold of the guys now putting them through. And they are moving them around. Because of the Zulus now breaking into the building. And at the same time, the guy called the private hook across him and now the cook has just given up now cooking. There was no time to cook since there was nobody to eat either. Then the guy just shade his friend Penn with the rifle. Then the guy now, in fact, Freedom Zulu misportrays him badly. Maybe 3 years ago, I was so lucky. I had a descendant now of Hooks from Riviera. Oh. She hates Film Zulu with her whole heart. I must tell you. Because now the way her grandfather, great-grandfather, whatever, is being misportrayed. She had a file with lots of stolen papers and lots of photos. She approached me later. That's my grandfather. I hate Film Zulu. Anyway. It's quite wrong because many historians also they describe this man as a hero. He saved those lives. The guy now be seen now fighting his regard actions them. Alongside he's got 2 Joneses here. And Hook now will be seen also, doing his job now. These 2 Joneses, Robert Jones and William Jones, will be also keeping the Zulus at bay and at the same time violating them now. And remember now, some of the holes are very small, so as to shoot it through, to the Zulus. Zulus couldn't see where the fire came from because it was very dark. Zulus now in fact had some difficulties. And another guy at some point, Hook has been putting his gun barrel now shooting to the Zulus. Zulus now, one of them grab hold of the gun barrel, We've got a hole here and a Hook on the other side. And Hook is searching for ammunition again, trying to reload. The Zulu on the other side is still holding, And he reloads nicely. That Zulu was blown into pieces now. Another one tried to kill him now, only wounding him now on his forehead here. The Assegai was meant to come straight, but luckily only cutting his cut like this. And the Hook survived now. Also, he got wounded, although the guy died later in 1905, having survived the Battle of Rorkes Drift now. And he's buried now in the place somewhere enclosed in one of the cemeteries there. I can't remember the name. But anyway, he survived. But he was badly wounded at Rorkes Drift. This time now people started to suspect that somewhere there's a fire. Started to smell now the smoke. And the search cars had been very jammed. Remember, it's been pouring with rain for the whole of that week now. This time, people are very, very panicking now. They think there is a fire somewhere. 2 of them found themselves hiding inside the wardrobe or a cupboard. 2 of them now, the man is called Private John Waters and his friend is called the Beckett. They are hiding inside the wardrobe then. While they're hiding there, Zulu warriors were passing by. Nobody, opened the thing to check. Then the guys were holding inside and hiding like this. But they started to suspect that there is a fire somewhere. And Private John Waters started to tell his friend, the Beckett, he says, no, my friend, there is a fire somewhere. I want to get out of this place. I don't want to die of fire. Therefore, the men started to search inside the wardrobe. Inside the wardrobe now, we've got a pile of clothes now belonging to either James Rorke's wife or Reverend Otto Witt's wife. Nobody had taken their items with now. Then among those clothes now is a black cloak. Then the man picks up now and he puts it on, trying to cover his red coat. Then he tells his friend now, he says, now my friend, I want to get out of this place. I don't want to die inside now. I want to die of fire. Therefore, the guy now opens the door, he gets out now in the dark, having covered his red coat. He keeps now mixing up with the Zulus. I can tell you, nobody from the Zulus spotted him. Then the guy forced his way out. He keeps now among the Zulus. There are massive numbers of them. Then the guy now is heading off now towards the place where the temple cookhouse is now. When he gets there now, he hid himself now at the back of the temple cookhouse. The British have been shooting to the Zulus. Some of them were struck, some of them also wounded, some of them dead. They keep piling on top of him. Then I can tell you that the guy stayed there for hours. In such a way that in the morning, Zulus were gone. Then the guy's got lots of Zulu bodies on top of him. Started to push them. He says, no, oh my Lord, beautiful sunshine out there. Feeling himself, he says, no, my Lord, am I alive? Am I alive? Then the guy now woke up, he survived. Now he shouts, now I'm alive! But I couldn't get any Victoria Cross. He never saved anybody's life now. That's how he saved his own life. At the same time, another guy called Gunner Arthur Hard from the Royal Artillery, having given now a few shots in the dark to them, then he thought, now, I've got nothing to do now but to get out of this building here. Then the guy forced his way through the veranda there. He found himself now at the place where the car park is now. There was a pigsty. The man jumped into the pigsty, hit himself now inside the pigsty. The sow runs away. Zulu warriors kill it now with their Assegai. Then later on, as the guy is hiding inside the pigsty, she's surprised and a piglet just emerged from the middle of the way towards his feet. Then he's busy now kicking the thing to go away. Will disappear for a second, comes back again. He does the same, disappears and comes back again. Then later on, the guy is sick and tired of this. He grabs hold of the thing, squeezing this now between his thighs. The thing kept quiet. Until the morning, Zulus were gone. The men survived. Strange enough, now nobody even today knows what happened to the piglet. I can only say now investigations continue. Nobody knows, but that's how the men said this whole life. Getting who's job now, it's a big story, trying to squeeze as much as I can. It was now maybe half past 9. Big flames were now visible. Inside the war that Chancellor, camping on the battlefields of Isalduan, was quite aware that Rorkes Drift is under the big attack. The whole of the western skies could lit up, also could hear the noise of the rifles. He was so convinced now that there was something happening here. But he couldn't do anything because he complained. It was very dark. Couldn't cross the river in the dark. He knew what was going on here. As a result now, these people had to be taken out through that hole. And they are assisted by two guys. One of them is a man called Corporal William Allen, and also the guy called Private H, who was giving them what they call now a pushback, you know, carrying them across the arcade. Another heavy firing. Zulus now at the time throwing the other guys and also shooting at them. It was not easy here, but Roman and Chad were trying to keep now this place here as what they call no man's land with the rifle fire. But crossing here now was not easy. At the same time, the doctor here, Sergeant Major Reynolds, very brave man. Apart from attending to the sick and wounded, the man could be seen putting his life at risk now, attending to the sick and wounded, and at the same time also supplying ammunition to the firing lines. Alongside he's got a man called Reverend Smith, who weighed about 260 pounds, with a black cloak hanging down to his feet here. He's got such a big beard here. Then the guy now, as a man of God, there was no time for him to kill. He wouldn't kill, but the only thing he could be doing is to shout those words of encouragement. He says now, fire my boys, force them to shoot and do not swear. Fire my boys, force them to shoot and do not swear. At the same time, supplying them with ammunition, without, dirtying his hands now. Between him and the doctor is a dog, to be called a Rorkes Drift dog. That dog belonged to the officers now who had been killed with the G Company at Isalduan. One of them was a man called Charles Pope and Gordon Austin. And those guys were killed at Isalduan. They went there hoping they're going to see the action and would come back alive to see their dog. Most unfortunately, they get killed there. During the Battle of Rorkes Drift now, the poor dog must have been very confused as to what the hell is going on. People running up and down, lots of noise here. Then we've got another line made from the biscuit boxes, coming from the bottom where you can see that green tree. That comes up into Popudai, and also that each of these mini bags, what you call now the biscuit boxes, weighed about 110 pounds. Then the dog could be seen, jumping on top of those biscuit boxes now. Happens now to come across a very strange body, strange face. Must be a Zulu warrior. Each time the body goes this way, the dog now follows it now, like this. Each time it goes this way, it comes along with him now, and he's spreading his legs, making off. I don't think the soldiers now, many of them were so clever, they were so convinced. Wherever the dog goes, they follow the dog, they find someone to shoot upon it. Then the dog survives. The dog's name is called Pip or Jock. And couldn't tell the story. Nor could also it receive any Victoria Cross. The dog was called Pip. Anyway, that building I can say now has collapsed now towards maybe past 10 or 11. It's gone. But a few of them were put up now by the flames. But not unfortunately, many of them were trying to run away from the fire. Not realizing how many Zulus outside them. It was just the care of just, running away from the fire. At the same time, you had yourself over to the Zulus now. They cut into pieces. And a few of them now, the guy called the corporal, they call him now Private King or King Cole. And the guy had been suffering from what they call claustrophobia. The guy realized that there was no time now, and the fire is going to catch them. He gets out, and the Zulus now cutting him into pieces. Also another one called Williams Horrigan, he gets out also, they did the same. Another one is a man who'd been suffering from what they call now fever, Sergeant Mansfield, and came out now totally naked. There was no time to dress him now, and the guy was also cut into pieces now. So many of them were quite unfortunate. Private Hook was the last man to get out of that building, as the man peered through that hole, overlooking now the battlefield here. He could see his men now all holding that section, and they're all now in dark. They've just camouflaged. Their helmets now very, very brown or dark. And he thought now they're all safe. Then they're holding that section because this time the Zulus were trying to concentrate now, wanting to get hold of that building. This time that becomes a big challenge for the British now because it meant that they are going to get access to the ammunition and also to the sick and wounded. That would mean that they are going to carry on to the next phase, even down to the High Commission to if they had won at Rorkes Drift. In other words, now this becomes a big challenge at Rorkes Drift now. They had to fight for tooth and nail. But now they're all on the front of him. That's where now the doctor is attending to them. Even Chad himself now had been rushed now to the place now to be operated now by the doctor. Hitch himself now had been struck by the Zulu bullet in such a way that the doctor operated now on his shoulder, took out now about 16 pieces of bone. And that would mean the guy would never be able to carry on with his military career. because it was just finished. Then, as they're all in the front of them, there were some reports now given to Chad. One was given to him by one of the 2 Afrikaner lieutenants. In fact, James Attendorf and Vane, there were 2 of the Afrikaner lieutenants here. And they were coming from Isandlwana. They were with the Natal native contingents. They've just broken away from the camp at Isandlwana to give a shout now to Chad about the camp being taken. And while they were here now, they were helping also, packing the millet bags. And also, while they were here, Attendorf reports that there's been another attempt of burning this building by one of the Zulus. Now, the guy claims that he has just shot him down. Around this time now, Chad says, now, some people must get on top of the roof so as to remove thirst grass. Among those guys, there was a guy called Briggy. Briggy and his men were busy removing thirst grass now. And while they were busy, he gets shot now somewhere at the back here by the Zulu snipers. Therefore, the guy was to roll from the roof. At the bottom, some people now sick and wounded. Among them was a man called Chupala from the Natal Mounted Police now, who had been wounded during the skirmishes on the 11th against Hiayo. And his horse rolled from the hill, breaking the whole of his thigh bone. Only 10 days time, a little bit now has just happened, just to men. What happens here now, Brick now rolls from the roof with the whole weight, landing on top of that now, spitting the thing again. Then the 2 men were lying next to each other on the ground, and their mates were trying to look after them, helping them. Brick now appeared now saying, "It's better bullet than Zulasekai, man." And the lad next to him now says, "Now, you stupid Brick, got up my broken thigh bone." Because now he has just broken the thing again. Then he can feel now that awful pain, but it was mistaken. Around this time, they've just raised what you call a redoubt. In front of the cattle kraal, you're going to see a set of stones there. It's called a redoubt, used as a rallying point or the final stand. Because of the redoubt being raised later then, Zulus now were trying to get now towards that place. Now it becomes very difficult for them. Therefore, towards now the morning, Zulus were not giving up now. Then they could be heard now shouting, others now saying, "Shiani! Shiani Zulu!" Just leave them alone. Leave them alone. In such a way that today, Zulus, this place, they call it Shiani. Just leave. Just leave them alone. They've been given now, a big, in fact, a big blood nose there. As a result now, it was now 5 o'clock in the morning or so, they're out of the site here. Leaving behind 351 on the ground here, but the number comes up to 500 or 600. And as a result now, the British lost only 17. And other guys were still pinned to the ground here. And bodies on top of each other here. Then the smoke. And that building was still smoking that morning. Then Zulus now, some of them died away from the camp now. And some of them crossed the river. They are now out of Zululand, out of Natal, back to Zululand. Remember also now on their way they come across Lord Chansworth and his men now coming to Rorkes Drift now. 2 armies passing each other very close. And as a result now, in 1839, we end up now having at least 8 battles of the Anglo-Zulu Wars. I'm not too sure if you are aware of that. 8 of them in total. 8 of them. The reason now, in fact, we've got Evelyn Wood up in the north. There was another fight going on. Here now they had a major disaster. Kenneth Pearson down the coast also, he won on the 22nd. He did very well. Then in total, we've got now 8 of them in total. And the last one being the Battle of Ulundi, whereby Chansworth came back after ordering now fresh reinforcements from home. And that's why also the Prince Imperial of France got attracted. Because now of the Franco-Prussian War of 1870, his family had been abdicated now. They lived in England, in a place called Chislehurst, now Camden Place. And the guy got educated now in the place called, he went to Woolwich and also to the King's College, completing now as the artillery officer. Many of his schoolmates were ordered out here as reinforcements. That's why he became very jealous when he saw them departing. He started to say now to his mother, "Mom, I want to go as well." His mother now, the Empress Eugene, says, "No, you're French, you don't have to worry about this." "No, Mom, it doesn't matter. Look, all my friends are going out, I want to go as well. Please, go and talk to Queen Victoria." Queen Victoria looked into the matter, and also the people like the Prime Minister at the time, Sir Benjamin Disraeli, and also the Minister of War, in the name of the Duke of Cambridge. They look into the matter, then they made their minds. Now they said, no, he may go, but under 3 conditions. 1, no uniform on, he's going to serve there as an observer, and also voluntary. Then the guy departs, now he comes out here from airport from Southampton, landing in Devon in March. Then this time, he's only 23 years old. As a result, now Chansworth will be receiving his troops, now marching them out to Piemonte, and along Dundee, down to catch up now the guy called Evelyn North. This time now, they've got what they call the 2nd Division, heading off now down towards Ulundi. The Prince's job here would be to go ahead of the column, fixing the routes and also camping sites, and also, he can also fix now the maps. That was his job now here. Remember, he has already bought himself now 2 pairs of uniform. He's already put one on. One of the rules was already being broken. Then this time, now, cutting the story short now, they were doing their job as usual, but you know, it's been very, very lucky and go ahead now. Then he could see Zulus on top of the hills, and he would be saying that, why don't you go and catch them? Can you see them? Let's go and catch them. Remember, that was just inside the war zone. You can't behave like that. It was quite risky. And the guy called Brendan Kerry was given a big job to look after him. The guy complained. Even now time. Then on the 1st of June, they were doing their job, and he breaks away from the main party, and they're searching for the Zulus now with only 2 troopers. They get surrounded now by the Zulus wherever they were hiding, and they're putting him down, whereby his team were busy fixing fire now for some tea. And he dies on the 1st of June, 1889. Every 1st of June, the French, they come to the village where the guy got killed. He was only 23 years old. The body will be embalmed, and he had about 16 wounds. And on the 16th, his body was taken down to Dublin, shipped back to England, buried for a time being in Chislehurst, but later on moved to the place called Farnborough, Hampshire. That's where you can find the grave today. He was the last one in the French throne. Last one, nobody today. Nobody. Disappeared in Zululand. Anyway, many of them now, in fact, wanted to see the last action at Ulundi. The Battle of Ulundi takes place on the 4th of July. This time, Lord Chelmsford has got fresh reinforcements, weapons, ammunition, everything new. Many of the Zulus were still, you know, walking like this. Survivors of the Battle of Sandwana everywhere. Then Chelmsford now is well prepared now, knocking on their doors on the 4th of July. And the British square this time was formed properly. He's got 12 7-pounders with 2 Gatling guns. Those are 2 powerful machines now. Then the Battle of Ulundi takes place, and lasting only for 95 minutes. 2,000 warriors died. 810 soldiers. 6 of them were the officers. Then Ulundi in flames. Kekatwana had fled the day before. What remains now for Lord Chelmsford to do in Zululand was to capture the Zulu king as a prisoner. That happened on the 28th of August, 1809. And capturing the king, now Chelmsford now was happy. He's now, in September, resigning now his command, replaced by the man called Sir Garnet Worsley. Worsley now organized a big meeting of all the Zulus now, all the chiefs now had to submit. The meeting took place now near Ulundi, that has just collapsed. And the chiefs were told, from today, your king will be taken down to Cape Town in exile. You will never ever see the sunshine again. He's going to die and rot in prison. Then you are going to get now those territories, about 13 of them, given to those chiefs now who had been very loyal to the British government of that time. Therefore, King John in September will be taken down to Cape Town, and locked down in a place called Odiemole. There's a big farm today there. And there's a village, a township now called Kukuletu. That's where a terrible incident happened, whereby now that Diwani family, you know, that, yeah, I think that township, that's where it happened. That's where there was a big farm. King John was now put up in that area. But Japan, 1880 and 1881, political changes happened in the UK. The Conservatives now lost, now replaced by the Conservative, the Liberals now under Clepstein. They got into power. Remember, they've been using these Anglo-Zulu wars as a very powerful weapon against the government, asking, what the hell are you doing in Zululand? And they get into power, trying to fix now the whole of this damage by the previous administration. They've got new administration also in their colonies, even in Cape Town. The new administration paid a visit now to King Gachwana. They said now, hello. King Gachwana says now, hello. How can we help you? Only one thing, I want to go home to die there peacefully. I don't even want to be a king. If not, I want to see the queen, to argue my case with her. Correspondence happened now between the Cape and London. Finally, the Zulu king was allowed to come over. And the King Gachwana departs on the 2nd of May, 1882, with his 4 wives and the 2 personal attendants and the interpreter. Arriving now there in July, taken straight now, in fact, he landed in a place called the Portsmouth. Then he was taken straight now to the Isle of Wight, Osborne House, meeting Queen Victoria. The meeting took place. Queen Victoria, like many British citizens, wanted to know why you kill our people. King Gachwana defends himself now through his interpreter. Now he says, now, I had no choice. They crossed many rivers and seas into my father's territory. It was my job to defend my father's territory, but I lost so many people because of those powerful machines. More than 25,000 Zulu warriors had perished as a result of these Anglo-Zulu wars, including now the destruction of the kingdom, split up into 13 reserves. Queen Victoria now, I'm so sorry to hear this. Go home. Gave him enough cup with 3 handles. Shaking hands with the king. Having a cup of tea together inside Osborne House. The whole thing changes now. He's been made a scapegoat. Then King Kocha now be treated nicely in the UK. Remember now, when he goes to the UK, another thing now that was ringing in his mind, he thought, what if these people turn around and kill me, calculating that I came, crossing the King Sea into England? But instead now, it was totally the opposite. The way he was treated now, he made more friends in the UK than the enemies he had back home. Then he was taken now to the very, very important places. Now he went to Woolwich. He also went to Hyde Park. He went also to the place called Aldershot. Aldershot now is one of the home of the British Army. They were trying to show him, can you see how many men you keep back home here than those you killed? Meaning that now they could have, kept sending more after another, Then King Kocha said, now, I side with them, they're too powerful. Therefore, King Kocha now made more friends. Now, each time the king is taken around the street now for some shopping, lots of traffic jams. People now peering through the windows. Now, when did you see the man who had given the British now bloody nose? Said to be walking freely here now. Then there's another small newspaper, they called Morning Post. Then the guy now called Alex Basano has been taking photos now. Then the story, there was an article. The Zulu king is walking freely here on the streets of London. He was giving the British now bloody nose in Zulu. People now came out in numbers. What did you see? Then by the end of 1882, King Kocha was allowed to come home. Sadly, when he gets back home, he finds that the kingdom is being split up into 30 reserves. That led to a civil war that broke out between him and his cousin. Then many Zulus now, the survivors of the Anglo-Zulu wars, I can say the cream of the Zulu nation will die as a result of the Anglo-Zulu, of these civil wars. Not as the Anglo-Zulu wars, but the Natal authorities were still responsible for this because that was just a divide and rule. Zulus would fight each other. King Kocha gets wounded, he gets now wounded him. He died at the age of 84, and at the age of 57, still very young. And it was on the 8th of February, 1884, because of that wound. Therefore, it's buried now in the place, becoming very, very important today, the birthplace of the famous President Zuma, called Nkandla, the very remote part of Zululand. As a result, now many of these VC winners, 11 of them, still wanted to see the last action now to London. And many of them now having seen the last action, and they went back home only to find their families now, starving. And the guys having won those Victoria Crosses, not well looked after. Many of them ended up now hating those Victoria Crosses because they always brought back now bad memories about Rorkes Drift. It was very sad now. But anyway, I'm not going to go to each and every one of them, but they had now those problems. And Lord Chelford now dies at the age of, must be somewhere in his 80s when he died. He died somewhere in June of 1905. While playing a snooker in the place called the Royal Services Club in London. During the match, he had a heart attack and collapsed. He's buried in the place called the Brompton Cemetery, between Chelsea and Kensington. He left 4 sons, and he was buried next to his dad. And he had that time in Zululand anyway. And the last, and the longest, Rorkes Drift, survivor to die, and the guy now is in possession of what they call the OBE, the Order of the British Empire. And he won the DCM, yeah? A distinguished Conrad medal here at Rorkes Drift. He's a guy called the Color Sergeant Bond. We hear now saying, hold your fire, you see the water of the eye. And he's the last man to die. And before the man dies, in 1936, he was approached by the BBC in the program called I Was There. Many of the survivors were still alive. Then the guy came forward now, told a beautiful story, well recorded now. And within that week now, the guy received about 350 letters from his listeners. He was able to reply to each and every one of them. Then the guy, in fact, sadly, in 1958, BBC clearing their archives, those beautiful recordings were all thrown away. Oh. They just thought they were not that important. And luckily, one of the listeners is a lady. She's now getting too old. There was another society established in 1997 by the guy called Dr. Adrian Greaves. And Greaves now receives a trunk as a present, full of stories now, papers, and there was a magazine with a topic, the listener. Meaning that now as a listener. The lady now managed to capture the whole thing. Then the story came back, but not from the men, personal voice, but the story came back, what the men said now, describing the events of Rorkes Drift. As a result now, the man dies a day after the day called VE Day. Oh. What day is it? What day is VE Day? This is your history.
May.
Great. Which year? 1945. Well done. Yeah. But the man dies on the 9th, the day after. What a coincidence. At the age of 91. He's buried on the place called Enma's End, Beckenham Cemetery, which is in the county of Kent. He's the last one to die. Yeah. Anyway, memorials. One for the British here, where you can see the White Cross for that 17. They lost him. And you go further now towards your right, you can see the dead wood is standing there. It shows where, in fact, the Zulu memorial is now, but that one was put up then in 2005 because there were only mass graves. One of them down here, and another one somewhere there for that 400 now. But over the years, Zulus were complaining. You know, it was not, in fact, it was not their culture. Zulus were all put in the same hole. So 2005, they put up now that one. You are going to see that one now. You are going to see the leopard sleeping on top of the shields. The leopard represents the Zulu king, and the shields representing the Zulu dead. There is a tree standing like this. That tree is called Umpafa, the buffalo thorn tree. Always symbolizes now reconciliation. Also now used now to take away the spirits of the dead from the places where they died. Could be battlefields or roads, accidents, and also those who died in mines, Johannesburg. We go there now, the small branch. We walk around the place. They will say, let's go home, let's go home. We feel like we've got him, talking to the branch, all the way back home. You feel like now the man is back home, no longer now on the spot where he died. It's called Umpafa tree. Thank you very much for coming. Hoping to enjoy the rest of your holiday. Thank you.